The season opener is upon us. Welcome to the X's and Omar edition for Week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. The Dolphins maybe have the toughest Week 1 game of the season, at least the toughest challenge going into one of the loudest stadiums in all of the NFL. Alongside Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln. What a challenge the Dolphins have for Week 1.
Double-digit deficit in terms of the odds makers, 10-point underdogs. It's going to be a great challenge for them. More than anything, I think facing a team of the caliber of the Seattle Seahawks, where you've got an effective, efficient, elite quarterback. Dolphin fans don't like when you say Russell Wilson's elite because they say, oh, Ryan Tannehill could have led the Seahawks to what they achieved. And come on, let's be real. Russell Wilson's elite quarterback. They've got one of the best top 5 defenses in all of the entire NFL. But let's not pretend like the Seahawks are impenetrable. They're unbeatable because they've got some issues in their own.
They have some flaws, certainly, but this is one of just a group of very difficult games that the Dolphins face to start the season. They play 4 teams that were in the playoffs last year in their first 6 games. You could call this the toughest schedule to start the season among any NFL team.
I would say it is by far the toughest schedule to start the season. You're on the road at Seattle. You're on the road at New England. You're on the road Cincinnati. I forget where Pittsburgh is.
That's at home.
That's
at home.
Game. Oh, okay. Finally, a formidable opponent at home. But this is arguably the toughest stretch. Now, the season lightens up a little bit in the middle of the season before you end the year on the road in the AFC East. I'm not looking forward to Christmas in Buffalo.
No,
but
you enjoy that trip.
This is a very tough opener of the season. Now, for me, I'm not really going to judge this team based on what they do in Seattle. I'm not going to judge them based on what they do in New England. I'm looking for what they do from that point on. From Cleveland on is where I will assess and evaluate, because you're headed into 2 of the toughest home venues in the entire NFL in your first 2 games. That's a tremendous challenge.
And thankfully, they do have 2 of the worst teams theoretically in the NFL, the Browns and the Titans, coming to Miami during that stretch. So you'd say, if it's a 2-4 start, I mean, that's what we're kind of looking at here.
Pretty much. I mean, to me, the biggest thing is you need to walk away from the first 4 games of the season with at least 1 victory. To me, when I've always evaluated when teams start to struggle in terms of mentally, it's that 3-game losing skid. You can't afford it. Once you hit that 3-game losing skid, you get into the Cam Cameron territory where your players are walking around looking like, does this coach really know what he's talking about? Does he know what he's doing? And once that doubt starts to creep in, you got to extinguish it. You can't afford a 4-game losing streak, because then it's over.
So I would say, don't panic.
Yeah. No matter what you see against Seahawks, don't panic.
This is a big loss. Don't panic.
The whole season, don't panic.
Just don't panic anyway.
This is a season. The Dolphins don't like to use the word rebuilding.
Right.
They're not going to ever use the word rebuilding. It just doesn't sell tickets. This is a rebuilding season. Reality is, this is a season just like Joe Philbin did in 2012, where you go into it and you find out what you have so that you can build from there. Now, Joe Philbin built a clunker from there, but there's no guarantee that Mike Tannenbaum, Chris Kerr, and Adam Gase will build a clunker from that point on. This is a season for exploration. Let's be excited about what we explore and find.
Well, Dolphins are going to face the Seahawks possibly down 3 very important players. Jelani Jenkins, Earl Mitchell, Mike Pouncey. We don't know they're practicing right now. We don't know if they're out there working out, but still, if those 3 players don't play this weekend.
Devontae Parker.
Yeah. Their 3rd or 4th receiver, Devontae Parker, might also not play.
How did you dare just call Devontae Parker a 4th receiver?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying he can't get out there. He can't get out there.
He's a 3rd receiver.
He is the 3rd receiver. Okay, fair enough.
But let's update you on some of these injuries. Mike Pouncey is battling a hip injury. More than likely, he's going to eventually get back on the practice field either at the end of this week or at the week after that. I don't expect him to play for at least the first 2 weeks of the season. I could be wrong knowing Mike Pouncey, but the last thing you want to do is have Pouncey suffer an injury that sets him back, where he's got to have the whole hip repaired. And then season's done. You don't want to do that. Jelani Jenkins is coming back from a knee scope that he had 2 weeks ago. Generally takes about 4 weeks for a knee scope to recover. I'm seeing Jelani Jenkins run straight line, but he's not cutting. When he starts cutting, we could talk about him getting back on the practice field. Earl Mitchell has been sidelined for the last month with a calf injury. Earl is practicing. Will he be 100%? Probably not. But then again, Earl Mitchell contributed, what, 16 tackles last season?
Right.
Earl Mitchell to 100%? Or can we really, but he's going to be playing. The question is whether or not he's going to be starting over Jordan Phillips. I say no.
Well, and a little bit of a different schedule, too, this week with the Dolphins. They're going to Seattle to have a Friday practice, and then we'll be able to see whether or not these guys are really active. Let's take our first question from Steve. Do you think Mike Pouncey is breaking down?
I think like every other NFL player who hits the age of 27, I think 28 is probably the age when they start to break down. But Mike Pouncey's 27, just like his brother, who happens to be his identical twin, same DNA. They battled some injuries the past couple of years, 3 years. So can I realistically say that Mike Pouncey will be healthy for the remainder of his career? No. He plays a very difficult position, 1,000 snaps a season. Your body starts to wear down. Last year it was a foot injury. Right now it's the hip again for the third time. These things are going to happen.
Well, I guess the more poignant question is his days of playing at a Pro Bowl caliber over?
No.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think when Mike Pouncey is good, Mike Pouncey's elite. To me, it's about strengthening what's around him.
All right. Next question comes from Kevin. I think this is a true or false question. Devontae Parker will play at least 10 games this season.
I think that that's true.
Yeah, I think so too.
Missing 6 is good. Missing 6 is a good number. I would say he'd probably play about 12 games this season. I've nicknamed Devontae Parker Bubble Wrap because that's generally what you have to practice with him in. But here's the thing that is important. You drafted a fragile receiver. You knew he was fragile when he was at University of Louisville. You got a fragile receiver. Don't complain and cry about it. Just get him healthy.
Is this a valid criticism of him, though, that he can't figure out how to keep himself healthy? Is it the fact that he's not keeping himself healthy, or is it the fact that he's not toughing out some smaller injuries?
I don't know if toughening out some smaller injuries is fair, because I watched him exactly when he got hurt. And he looked damn good when he finally opened up and ran.
Right.
He was booking when he ran. And that booking, he was like, oh. And that's the thing. Do you want a healthy Devontae Parker at 70%? Or do you want 100% Devontae Parker who could be elite but can't stay healthy for 10 games? Which one do you want?
I want the elite guy out there and being ready when he's out there.
So that means you want him only for 10 games this season.
Okay. I mean, I'd rather see him out there and get someone else.
That means shut him down for the next month.
All right.
Shut him down for the next month, let his hamstring heal, and then when he's ready to play in the second half of the season, make the best of the second half of the season.
I don't think I want to see him on Sunday.
I don't want to see him on Sunday. I don't think there's a chance you'll see him on Sunday.
All right. Daniel asks, what are the 3 most important things Dolphins must do to beat Seattle?
Starts with the quarterback, Russell Wilson. Contain him. Do not allow him to get out the pocket. Do not allow him to improvise and create broken plays. That's hard, but that's going to require the cornerbacks stay on their man, be disciplined. The second thing is stay away from Richard Sherman. There's no point. Richard Sherman is an elite cornerback. He's going to be on the left side. You know exactly where he's going to be. Put your weakest receiver on the left side. Go attack with your other players, your other pieces. And even I'll give you a better strategy. Have Jakeem Grant go out there, and every time he's on Darrelle Revis, run a 9 route. Richard Marshall. Yeah. Running a 9 route. Run 60 yards. Just keep running 60 yards.
Right.
Wear him out. By the time the second half gets here, attack him. You want to go about that route, attack him. To me, though, the game will be won and lost in the trenches.
Yeah.
And this is where the Dolphins have their biggest edge. Because on paper, notice I said on paper, the Dolphins have a better offensive line. The Dolphins have a better defensive line. On paper, now mind you, Seattle's got one of the best defenses in the NFL, very stingy. But on paper, Sue, Mario Williams, Cam Wake, Jason Jones, whoever you want to throw in there at tackle, those guys are better than what Seattle has. Can you stop the run? Can you contain Christian Michaels? Can you contain Thomas Rawls? Can you make Seattle one-dimensional so that they have to put the pressure on Ryan Tannehill? Put the pressure on Russell Wilson's shoulders? Because we see what happens when teams put the pressure on Ryan Tannehill's shoulders. He eventually buckles. Well, put the pressure on Russell Wilson's shoulders and make him play like a superhero.
And those are three huge challenges that face this Dolphins. And you almost
On the
say,
road.
just win one of those battles. You know, if you don't, don't get run over. Have good run defense. Be able to run the ball. Do something. You want to pull something out of this game. You want to. You don't. On paper, it looks like this is going to be a really rough game for this team, and you want to at least come out of something saying, the offense. Tannehill seemed to have some grasp of this offense. They were able to move the ball, or this defense showed something again in a really tough challenge. Show us something.
You're making me think, because here's my thought process on what you just said, and you make a very valid point. Here's three things that I will look towards to see that this is a positive step for the Dolphins. Were you able to consistently run the ball? Were you able to get 4 yards per carry? Whether it be Arian Foster or Jay Ajayi, I don't give a damn. Whoever it is, run the ball. Take the pressure off Ryan Tannehill. Were you able to stop the run consistently? And Seattle's going to want to run it. Can you stop it? We've got all these Pro Bowl defensive linemen, all these linebackers who've proven that they can be good players. Okay, stop the damn run.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, can you put up 24 points? To me, that is so critical, because if you want to be effective in this wide nine defense, if you want to be able to pin your ears back and go and attack the quarterback, how this defense is built, you kind of need points.
Right, I agree that to that point too. That's another thing that I'm scared about, is that this, we're doing lots of dinks and dunks again. We're working a lot in that 10-yard box. Are we going to see another issue of this is an offense that's not going to be able to get into the end zone? That's what we've seen with Ryan Tannehill's entire career. Offenses that can't get in the end zone.
He's been okay getting into the end zone in his first 2 years of his career. It's kind of tailed off at the end. But yes, this offense is 10-play, 12-play drives to score. And then last year they kind of gave you some quick strikes, but not enough points, 19 points. You got to score points to win in the NFL. Yeah. That's the bottom line. You got to score points.
If they're good on offense and bad on defense, that's almost a good thing. It's a plus, because at least they did well on one side of the ball. You're right. Yeah. The little victories, I guess.
It's all right. The little victories.
It's not, but it is this weekend for the Dolphins in Seattle. All right, let's discuss some of the decisions Miami made to make this 53-player roster, which seems to be sort of a work in progress. What did you think about this roster?
I think it's an overall weak roster, not the weakest in the NFL, but it's not very strong. You're not strong at defensive tackle. You're not strong at linebacker. You're not strong at cornerback. Where else are you not strong? Did I say linebacker?
You did.
Let's double down on linebacker.
Yeah, let's double down on linebacker.
Yeah. Tight end. You're not strong at tight end.
Depth almost everywhere.
Depth almost everywhere. We were talking in the media contingent, just privately, our private conversations that never ever really make it to the public consumption, even though we're bringing it to the public right now.
Okay, great.
We were talking in the media contingency, and we were just like, okay, what area of this team do you feel confidence in? There's none. Do you feel confident? The strongest units on this team are the offensive line and defensive line. Didn't we just talk?
I like receiver, too.
They're thin now. No Devontae Parker. They don't even have a third.
Right.
Like, they don't trust Leonte Carew. They don't trust Jakeem Grant. They're pretty much planning to play two tight ends.
Yeah.
Like, so how could you be deep? How could you be deep if you don't trust to play the rookies?
That's true.
So, quarterback's a little iffy. Running back, kind of. You're deep at running back, but every single one of them has injury issues.
Sure.
Durability concerns. Wide receiver, we just discussed that. You've got 3 maybe. Tight end, let's be real. Offensive line.
Those 5 guys, if they stay healthy and
come on, we're already down 1. We're already down 1.
And the time is ticking on Brandon Albert.
The season hasn't begun, and we're already down 1. Jermon Bushrod, can he play 16 games in the season? Brandon Albert, we all know Brandon is about durability, staying healthy. Once he starts to get nicked up, it's Jawan James missed 8 games last year. Can that line stay healthy? And then defensive line. they don't really have depth. They don't have backup defensive ends. Terrence Fede is okay.
Right.
Look at this. Like, sounds like a campaign slogan. Terrence Fede
Fede
is okay.
is okay.
How
How many NFL teams would Terrence Fede make the 53 of? It's not a high percentage, I don't think.
Not a high percentage, probably 1/5 maybe. I think he'd be in the NFL, but he'd be the back of the end roster kind of guy. And then linebacker, good God.
We don't even need to talk
I don't
about
even
that.
know if you have 3 quality backups. I don't even know if you have 3 quality starters.
Yeah.
Secondary, cornerback, you've got 4, and that includes Tony Lippett, which is just okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Tony Lippett got cut tomorrow if he'd actually make a 53-man roster. And then safety, probably one of your deeper positions, probably. Walt Aikens and Michael Thomas were both special teams contributors, but that's about it. There's not much that you could feel real comfortable about on this roster. When I could argue and say to you, quarterback is probably the deepest position,
Yeah, right.
and it's not even that good.
No, it's not that good. I mean,
Yeah.
Are we sure Matt Moore's ready to be a backup this week? Is he
I
ready?
think he's cleared.
Okay.
If he practices today, then he's cleared his medical protocol. He gave me an extensive rundown on the concussion protocol, and I was just like, wow, it was really intriguing to hear all the things that he had to go through and the tests and, memorization and baseline brain scans. And, I think he's done that. He's jumped through enough hurdles for 3 weeks. That's the NFL's precautionary measure to try to avoid lawsuits from future NFL players. But, yeah, I think he's cleared to go.
All right, let's take our next Twitter question. It comes from Ken. Rank the 10 most important players for the Dolphins. Okay, so you made a list of 10.
I made a list of 10.
Is this the 10 most important for them to have good seasons this year for the Dolphins to be good at the end of the year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean that all of these players are indispensable, because Ndamukong Suh, he's clearly indispensable. But there are other guys who, like Rashad Jones, I don't think you're going to get the level of play from Walt Aikens if Rashad Jones goes down, but it's not that drastic a drop-off. With Suh, it's a drastic drop-off. Brandon Albert, Laramie Tunsil moves over, but there's going to be some drop-off there, and then the rest of the line is going to be impacted. Jarvis Landry, you can't play without Jarvis Landry. Jakeem Grant has to go into the slot, or maybe Kenny Stills moves into the slot role, which is something that he filled in New Orleans. You can't survive without Jarvis Landry. And while we are playing with Anthony Steen as the starting center for the first couple of games of the season,
I'd feel a lot better if it was Mike Pouncey.
I certainly would. Cameron Wake, in 3 games, he gave you 7 sacks.
Yeah.
Who knows what Cam Wake can do now that he's coming back from this Achilles injury, and that he's a year older at 34. But Cam Wake's a pretty dominant player when he's healthy. I threw Ryan Tannehill on this list because everybody will get all sensitive when you don't throw a quarterback on there. But
he probably belongs on the list.
He definitely belongs on the list. Byron Maxwell, who is your only proven accomplished starting cornerback. Yeah,
I think I'd put Maxwell above Tannehill, but yeah.
I probably would put Maxwell above. And Kiko Alonso honestly should be a little bit higher on this list, because if Kiko goes down, Cole Meese is your starting inside linebacker. I have no idea how that would play out.
Right, and then Hewitt steps in, or Paysinger, I guess, would step in and be a starter.
Paysinger would be a starter at the Sam spot, and Hewitt they're kind of down on because he's not grasping the defense at this present moment, not playing fast enough. And then Arian Foster, who just elevated himself into the starting role, he's in my top 10 of important Dolphins players. I have no idea if he's going to be good this year. Last year he averaged 2.6 yards per carry. The game that he got the biggest run in was the Miami Dolphins, who suffocated him to death because his first step wasn't good enough. And it'll be interesting to see if his first step is good enough against Seattle.
But I think why he belongs on this list is, think about where the optimism you would have of this offense if you were going with Jay Ajayi as your starting running back.
You know what? I don't believe that Jay Ajayi would be the starting running back. I think that Kenyon Drake, if he was healthy, maybe he would have pushed Jay Ajayi for that starting spot. I think that Isaiah Peets, if he were healthy, would push Jay Ajayi. Both of those guys have a little bit more talent than what I've seen from Jay Ajayi.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've been thinking about that this week too. I know you don't play fantasy football at all. I know it's not your thing, but Jay Ajayi is a guy who gets drafted in a lot of fantasy football leagues because people are expecting Arian Foster to not play the full season, and if he's not the full season, then Ajayi becomes the guy who gets the carries. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. If Drake's healthy in a month and that's when Foster goes down, you're going to see that running back by committee, I think.
It is going to be running back by committee. We're going to see Jay Ajayi is going to get his opportunities to prove himself. Arian Foster's going to play, going to get 15 touches this game. Jay Ajayi is probably going to get 7 to 10. So you're going to get an opportunity. Jay Ajayi will have an opportunity to redeem himself. The question is, what happens if he doesn't? Yeah. What happens if he doesn't redeem himself and he's not and he shows that he's still a 3.4 yard per carry back? Well, time to go. Yeah. Time to move on and find somebody else who can give you something a little bit more.
Nice fumble on your first carry too.
Ooh.
Disgruntled Dolphin asks. Disgruntled Dolphin asks, shouldn't Sam Bradford being traded for a 1st and 4th help Tannehill's case in a trade and at least fetch that? Right? I think two things. I'll jump in.
Please do.
So I think one of the issues here is that the Vikings are a week away from starting their season, and they did not want to start their season with Sean Hill. So that you have a desperate team that needed a quarterback.
You also have Rick Spielman running the show. But
there you go.
How much future does he have if he doesn't win?
You know,
who cares if it's a future first-round pick?
Right. I mean, if Ryan Tannehill goes if the Dolphins go 7-9 this year, and at the end of the year they say, you know what, I think it's time that we move on. There's no one in the offseason that's going to pay that for Ryan Tannehill.
I think the fair value for Ryan Tannehill, and if the Dolphins decide to move on from Ryan Tannehill, they will trade him because he's still an asset. He's still the 18th to 20th best quarterback in the NFL, even if he falls on his face. The question is, at his $18 million salary, what is the team willing to give up to pay that much to an average quarterback? Probably on the top shelf a 3rd-round pick. And that's pretty respectable.
It's not bad.
The question is, who's going to want to give that up for Ryan Tannehill? I don't think we'll see. There's some teams that probably have some quarterback issues. We'll see by the end of the season. But, let's not pretend like you're selling, a Mercedes-Benz.
Well, and these trades are all about leverage.
Yes, exactly.
And the leverage was all, on the Eagles' side because the Vikings needed Sam Bradford. At the end of the season, who's going to want the trade more? The Dolphins getting rid of Ryan Tannehill or the team taking Ryan Tannehill, that's going to play a big factor too.
Here's the future of Ryan Tannehill. It all depends on what's available in that quarterback class.
That's true too.
And it depends on what's available on the free agent market. And it depends on when you're stacking that up with Ryan Tannehill, who I think will have a better season. I think he'll have a season reminiscent of his 2014. What will your better option be? Unfortunately, no matter if he doesn't produce a winning season, I still think that Ryan Tannehill is probably going to be the better option. I haven't looked at all the quarterbacks out there right now in terms of the draft. I haven't looked at the free agent options out there, but I still think that Ryan Tannehill is adequate.
Adequate.
That's my definition of him, adequate.
What do you think about Justin Hunter, the receiver they signed coming out of Tennessee?
I think that he adds a dimension of deep speed, size, to a unit that desperately needs size and deep speed if Devontae Parker goes down. He's a very I watched him just in one practice, and he's fluid. He moves well. The question is he coachable? Can he learn an offense quickly? And I think it's probably going to take a realistic time for a guy to learn an offense is probably 3 weeks. So it'll take us 3 weeks before we can fairly evaluate what he does and what he can bring to the table.
All right. Let's move on to play a game of true and false. Is it your favorite? I can't believe we haven't done it yet.
Absolutely, yes. It is my favorite. We're on show number 3, and we're finally at true and false.
Right. It's because the questions are shorter, so you get to talk longer. That's why you like these
Let's
so
get
much.
that one. Let's put that.
You
want to
get this? We'll get this in true or false. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, hold on. I don't know if she's ready for it, but we're going to ask the Dallas Thomas question. Go ahead.
Okay. Dallas Thomas question. Dallas Thomas. This is from Kevin. We'll turn to true or false. Dallas Thomas should have been cut. True or false?
That's false. Dallas Thomas is your 6th best offensive lineman. He's got the versatility to play right tackle, right guard, left guard, and in a pinch, he's even played left tackle last year. Yes, he's making $1.6 million, but, yes, we know who Dallas Thomas is, but can he fill in a pinch? Sure, he can get it done.
Let's play this game again. What percentage of teams would Dallas Thomas actually make the roster of?
Probably 1/3.
1/3.
Yes.
Next question, Nate.
2-year starter. 2-year starter.
Sure. Well, all right. Nate asks, true or false? The DL spot opposite Sue is the key to effective DL play this year.
D-line play probably in the run stopping, I would say yes, because they've got to occupy those guards, preventing them from getting on the linebackers. So I'm going to say true on that answer.
All right, Ralph, true or false? Same old for the 2016 Dolphins. What does that mean?
7-9,
7-9,
8-8, 6-10. Yeah, that's rather true.
Yeah.
I would say the Dolphins, unless things just tremendously go their way in terms of staying healthy, in terms of this wide nine defense working, in terms of Arian Foster being this Pro Bowl caliber back that he once was in 2014. No, it's going to be the same old, same old.
Well, you said 7-9. I said 8-8 last week. But I think that we would both agree that the better chances that they finish worse than that than they finish better than that.
Depends on injuries. I think that they are a 6-10 to 8-8 team. That is their wheelhouse. Everybody in the NFL is designed to be average. That's the way that the system is set up. You're based on your schedule you finish. You get an easier schedule. If you play better, you get a harder schedule. You know, it's everybody is designed to be hovering around their 6-10, 8-8, 9-7 if you have a good year. If you fall out of that range on the lower end, you're just a bad team. If you fall above that range, then things have gone your way.
Well, they need a lot to go their way.
Yes.
Dennis, true or false? Jordan Cameron will be traded by the trade deadline.
False. Who's
Yeah, I don't
taking
think that's
Jordan
true.
Cameron's
Who wants
contract?
$8 million? Who wants that?
And for a one-year contract, like who is taking Jordan Cameron for? No, he's not making 8. He's making like I think 6.5. Remember, he got
6.5.
shaken down this year.
Right. Oh, that's what it is. Right.
He took a pay cut. But Jordan Cameron, I think he's going to perk up. And I watched them during game planning for this. I'm not going to say which game. And Jordan Cameron was more implemented, more involved, and it came off the week that he dropped balls against the Falcons. And I was like, hey, that's the Jordan Cameron I expected to see a year ago. And I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. Adam Gase is working some voodoo magic there.
He's not a bad player. He's just
No.
there's just something going on. Something going on. Corey, true or false? The Dolphins' running game will be more important to winning than their defense.
Yes. Praise Jesus.
True.
Corey. People don't understand how important a running game is, not just to the quarterback, to the offensive lineman, to the defense, to time of possession. It benefits everybody if you're able to sustain an effective rushing attack. Now, you can rest your defensive players. All the pressure isn't on the quarterback's shoulders. You're throwing on 2nd and 6 or 3rd and 4, as opposed to 3rd and 9, or 3rd and 8, which is when Ryan Tannehill generally throws the ball. You need to alleviate some of the pressure from Ryan Tannehill if you want him to show you who he is as a quarterback. And you know, Ryan Tannehill can be Alex Smith. He can be Alex Smith if you get him the running game Alex Smith has. Problem is they don't have that.
Well, and like you said, you can see it, and the defense runs so much on emotion and being and when you've got when you're going out there again and again and again because your team is on 3 and outs, that's one of the biggest issues with defenses. Okay, next question is from Steven. True or false? Kenny Stills will have a breakout season and won't be playing for the Dolphins next year.
True and true.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he does have a breakout season, he will not be playing for the Dolphins next year. That's for sure. The question is he going to have that breakout season?
Sure. I think Kenny Stills, in my mind, he'll probably be insulted by this, is a 3-year, $15 million type of player. I think $5 million for Kenny Stills is not bad price. Will the Dolphins be willing to give him that Rashard Matthews type contract? I doubt it, considering they've got Leonte Carroo. It depends on how much Leonte Carroo and Justin Hunter and Jakeem Grant show you within the next 3 months. If they show you that they're ready and willing to be capable replacements for Kenny Stills, then yeah, bye-bye, Kenny.
Well, yeah, I wonder, I guess we're talking how much of a breakout. Yes, I would agree. If he has a big season, if he's, then I think
What's
some
the big
team
season for
out
Kenny
there,
Stills?
80 catches.
80 catches, that's a lot.
But they're going to throw it a ton.
I don't think so. I think they're going to try to run. I mean, Adam Gase, they didn't have much of a running game in Chicago, but they ran.
Okay.
And
with
now,
these running backs.
Makes me a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Luke, true or false? The Dolphins will have 2,000 plus rushing yards in 2016.
That is false. I think I did the math. Last year, there were like 4 teams with 2,000-yard rushing attacks. No, this is not one of them.
This is not one of the best ones.
No.
Matthew, a starting cornerback unit of Maxwell, Howard, and Thomas is respectable.
throw in Bobby McCain as a splitting as a guy who rotates in for all three of them, and I can say it will be respected.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with Byron Maxwell. He is not Brent Grimes. He is not a lockdown corner. But you stick him on the right side, you're probably going to give up 5 passes. Maybe you'll give up a touchdown every other game. It'll do. And the question is, how well was Xavier Howard play? He's going to be defending the best receiver in every team's best receiver. Talented kid. I call him the savior.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be called on to save this secondary. I like him. I would love to see him under fire, and he will be under fire on Sunday.
I mean, we haven't seen him play in a real game yet, but of the guys that have been drafted the last 2 or 3 years,
You have confidence in him.
He's one of the guys you're excited about. He's one of the guys, if you're a Dolphins fan, you should be really excited
No
about.
question about it. I would say, and this is going to be heavy praise, but I would say he's probably the most talented guy I've seen play for the Dolphins since Jarvis Landry. Be drafted and come in, and and I've only watched him practice for 2 weeks, but I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, this kid's got something. This kid's got something.
All right, prediction time. What do you like? Who do you like this weekend?
Of course I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're one of the upper echelon teams now. If they start to battle some injuries on the offensive line, if Miami's defensive line is what they're billed to be, then I think that the Dolphins could have a chance if they can run the ball and stop the run. But I'm going to have to go with Russell Wilson. I'm probably going to predict a 27-23 victory for the Seahawks.
You keep it close. I'm not going to keep it that close. I'm going to say 33-16.
Ooh, 33 points.
33 points. I think that offense gets going.
Oh, that's a stinker.
I'm sorry. It's just not going
to.
They're in the game in the half.
33-16?
Oh, 33-16. Seahawks get the win.
Cold.
But I'm saying no overreaction.
That's cold.
This is going to be no overreaction next Wednesday on the show, depending on what happens.
33-16. You got a beat down.
If they're going to get beat down at some point this season, this is the one.
You can't start your season opener with a beatdown. I'm sorry.
Well,
you're going to take on a lot of water.
You should have been prepared for it when you saw Seattle on the at Seattle on the schedule. I'm sorry.
Ooh, predicting a beatdown. I feel sorry for you.
Well, I guess we'll talk about it next week. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. And hang on with us here if you're watching us live. We're going to go to X's and Omar Overtime and send us all your questions either right here on the chat room or on Twitter using the hashtag XOmar. And throughout the week, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Omar Kelly, at Matt Lincoln TV, and send us questions using the same hashtag. Good luck. Enjoy watching the game on Sunday.
Good luck on that beatdown.
Yeah.
Beat down.